Those of you who know Judy will be familiar with her humour and strength in living with Parkinson's, and also her passionate advocacy in raising community awareness about Parkinson's and helping other people through sharing her journey. Please give me a warm welcome.
Thank you. I could go no further. I reached out and I touched her on the arm and I said, "Are you going to buy something now?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Would you please order me a cappuccino?" And I handed her $5. She took it and I walked over to the nearest table with my legs cramping because my muscles were trying to push me forward and hold me back at the same time. I sat down. She brought the coffee over to me and joined her friends at another table. I watched the other shoppers go by. And when I was ready, I walked over to her table and I thanked her for helping me. I said, "I have Parkinson's disease. And when my medication runs low, I have trouble moving." And she said that her husband, sitting next to her, also had Parkinson's disease. He and I are among the 80,000 Australians who have Parkinson's disease. Right now, there is so much information available on Parkinson's compared to when I was first diagnosed in 2005. What I'm going to tell you today is based upon my own personal experience, and it is only in the minutest tip of the iceberg of all the information that's available. And as I said, I'm going to be using my own personal experiences in my talk. Now, Parkinson is diagnosed or described as a progressive, debilitating, incurable disease of the central nervous system. It's second only to Alzheimer's in terms of its prevalence in the community. There's no known cause. We have neurons in our brain that produce a chemical called dopamine. And it's like the oil in a car. If you have enough oil, your car's going to run smoothly. But if you let that oil go down and down and down until you run out, your car's going to stop. That's what happens to us. By the time we're diagnosed, 80% of those dopamine-producing cells are already dead. So there's no definitive test for Parkinson's. And some patients wait years to find out that they've got Parkinson's. One in particular had 12 years of medical treatment, including surgery and all sorts of things, before he found out he had Parkinson's. That included CAT scans, spinal taps, and so on. So patients with Parkinson's are described as being at one stage or another, depending on their symptoms when they're diagnosed. And those stages: early, middle, late. And I'm just going to give you an idea today, based upon what I know, of what the different stages involve. So in the early stage of Parkinson's, the lack of dopamine plays a major part in helping you to move smoothly. And you get the symptoms that people associate with the disease. You have a tremor, and this can be on any part of the body: hands, face, legs, anything. And it's uncontrollable most of the time. It's usually one side predominates over the other. There's rigidity, stiffness, where try to get out of a car when it's hard enough out of the front seat of a car, isn't it, just to get out? But it can be very hard to get out. Balance. Now that's critically important, balance, because if you don't have the balance, then you are liable to fall and hurt yourself and can be seriously injured. So balance is important as well. Slow to move. Recently, I've been doing a fair amount of cooking at home, and my husband's call is, "Judy, where are you? What's happening?" Because I'm much slower than I used to be in terms of preparing things. And illegible writing. My writing used to be very good, and I could take notes from a classroom and have no problem ever reading them. But now it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until I can't read it at all. But if I stop in the middle of it and start again, I can do it. I have a real challenge in putting labels on all the fish my husband catches on the bags, because I start to write blackfish or whatever. And it's hard to read the label because it gets so small. Mentally, Parkinson's, and you may have noticed this already, Parkinson's affects your memory, your ability to think, and to focus on different tasks. Now, my story, as it fits into this. When I was a little girl, I told my mother that I wished my mouth went all the way around my head so I wouldn't get tired when I talked. Well, it doesn't, and I don't. I never imagined that I would find it a challenge to talk. I was lucky to be diagnosed early in 2005. My mother had Parkinson's, so I recognized some of the symptoms. My husband had been hospitalized for 10 days with an unknown kidney disease, and I went to and from the hospital from Dangar Island on public transport for those 10 days. So needless to say, I was quite tired, and that opened the door for Parkinson's to come in. Some of the symptoms that I had is my right foot sort of slapped. That's what it felt like to me. It was slapping when I would walk. And my right arm didn't swing. It was stiff at my side. I had trouble brushing my teeth on the right side. That's when I got my electric toothbrush that I really love. And I have, as I said, difficulty with memory, thinking, and focusing on things. So in the beginning stages of Parkinson's, progression of the disease is usually slow. And what happens is the symptoms are taken care of as they arise. Most of the time they're pretty mild, they're not debilitating at all. But one of the most important things for you as a Parkinson person is to stay in contact with your doctor regularly, because that can help you adjust the medication to improve the quality of your life for a longer period of time. Now, those of us living with Parkinson's are at the mercy of our medication regime. Let me ask you, how many of you would be really willing to have performance-enhancing drugs? Don't you think you'd like some performance-enhancing drugs? As I said, the most critical thing is to stay in contact with your doctor. You have to know what your medication does. You have to know how to take it. And you have to know what the side effects could be. Timing can be critical. One of the patients that I read about had a 15-minute window to take his medication. And if he missed that, he started to heavily sweat, and he couldn't move for a long time. 15 minutes is all he had. Another person was charging two major pharmacological businesses because they had not told him the potential side effects of that medication. It made him a compulsive gambler. And he lost his home, he lost his family, he lost his work, he lost everything. Over $3 million, a compulsive gambler. And the medication is what made him compulsive. So you need to know what is going to happen with your medication and what you need to know about it. For example, when I first started taking Cinnamon, I took it with a glass of milk because the reference in the book said that it can upset your stomach. So I took it with a bit of milk. Now that I did for 10 years. Between 3 and 5 doses a day, that's a lot of milk. Well, my husband and I started doing online shopping. And we ordered long life milk. Lots of it. The last big order we had was over $300 worth of long life milk. And then I found out that you should not take your Cinnamon tablet with a protein. We had a lot of milk left. We have gotten through it, but you need to know what it's going to be like. Now, progression to the next stage, wherever you are, progression to the next stage happens when your symptoms become unpredictable. Now my medication would kick in for a while, and then it would ease off. So we have the on period and the off period. And when it's on, you feel like you can fly. It's just so wonderful. My brother was here from the States, and I went walking with him and his grandson on the island, on Dangar Island. And my medication was at that time a low period. So I'm walking along with him slowly, and all of a sudden it kicked in. And initially it was like a light switch. Boop, boop, on, off. And it kicked in. And I took off, and I ran practically home. And he said it was like I was a little bunny rabbit for the batteries. But that's the fun part I had with the first stage of Parkinson's. Later on, well, just a second, sorry. Communication with others. Parkinson's can help you or stop you from communicating well because your voice can go very soft. It can be hoarse and husky. And worldwide, we have so many people, 6.3 million people living with Parkinson's. There's an international... Just a second, please. I've gotten myself... There we go. Okay. Start over. The middle stage of Parkinson's is 3 to 5 years. And it's, again, important to work with your doctor. Half the patients of Parkinson's will experience some symptoms of the disease which can have serious repercussions for their daily life. For example, balancing, as I told you. Your feet freeze and you can try to go forward and you can't. And what happens is the front of your body keeps going forward and you can injure yourself through falling. There are ways to work around that, which I'll talk about later. The other thing that happens is involuntary movements, and you may notice that I'm not very still. And it depends on how tired you get or other things. And also, it's the boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Memory, it says. Memory. "75% of the people with Parkinson's will find it difficult to communicate." Now, the brain, the cells that are... Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I want you to all know that this is a symptom of Parkinson's. An inability to communicate, an inability to find the words in my head that I want to say, frustration. I want a good talk. I don't want this stuff. But anyway.
Take your time.
Okay. With the living with Parkinson's, let's do that. Parkinson's is unique. Every single person who has it has a different story, because it just hits you in so many ways that you aren't even aware of. And you're not aware of them until they become a symptom and they intrude on your life. Now let me ask you, please, how many of you, I'm a familiar ground, how many of you have trouble turning over in bed at night or getting out, especially in the wintertime? Raise your hands, please. Hi, I want to see your hands. You have trouble getting out of bed or turning over. You feel like you're stuck to the sheets with Velcro. And no matter how hard you try, you can't move forward. But I want to tell you, that's one thing I've solved for myself with Parkinson's. When I take my satin nightshirt and my satin sheets, my pillow slips off the wall, and I slide from one side to the other across the bed. Now just think about it. If both of you wore satin, there'd be no telling where you ended up. Now, my own progression. What is the impact of Parkinson's on other parts of my brain? You know, the cognitive part of my brain. I noticed for some time there was a definite decrease in my ability to focus on intellectual work, such as teaching, preparations of lectures or speeches, or doing my accounts. In 2008, I realized that a 13-year career of teaching postgraduate management, environmental management students how to make good seminars was coming to an end, because I could not fix 4 speakers to 4 evaluators. And I tried and tried and tried, and I stood up at my desk and I said, I can't do this! And I ended up giving up my teaching to my friend who was also a Toastmaster, and so the program went on and it developed even further. Physical changes, you're going to get those as well. On my right foot, my toes have moved over like that. And the podiatrist said that it was because it was to help adjust the balance that was due to Parkinson's. I have over the last 6 months or so, I've had a couple of occasions where I'm sitting in a chair or on the couch or whatever, and I start being pulled over to the side. Now the other night, during dinner, I was having great difficulty eating my dinner because I was being pulled over to the side, and I'd have to pull myself up, but I could feel it pulling me. And it's not fun. Dyskinesia, the extra movement. Now, some people have it so badly, I don't see how they can do anything. It makes it hard to read because you're wiggling and your eyes are following around. And also, you get changes in your eyes as well. When I first started speaking on Parkinson's, I told about my friends Ian and Denise. And Ian was, one day he was swaying back and forth like this. And Denise said, Ian, what are you doing? And he said, I'm trying to see which one of you I talk to. So double vision is something that can really happen for you. The freezing is, I think, probably one of the worst things. And it's not affected by medication. If I've unhooked. Okay. It's affected my life in several ways. It's difficult. It's decreasing my independence. I mean, I still come from Hornsby, from home to Hornsby to shop. I have a little tinny boat with a 15 horsepower motor on it, which I pull to start. And I come in with my shopping trolley and I shop, and I fill that trolley. And it doesn't take many 2-liter containers of this or a kilogram of that to make a very heavy trolley. But I do it. I still do it. And we don't have an elevator at Brooklyn train station. We have 100 steps. And I still do it. But it can be embarrassing. Before the Opal card, when we had to put our little ticket in the machine, I'd put my ticket in the machine and the gate would open. I'd put my ticket in the machine and the gate would open and I'd go through. But it can be embarrassing. And it can be frightening. One day I came home from the exercise class and I got my boat into the pontoon and I tied it up, did everything I had to do, lifted the motor up and everything, and got ready to get out, and I could not step from the boat seat to the pontoon. I could not move. I just stood there, and then I started to cry. And that was a good cry because I got a lot of stuff out of me with that one. But it can be frightening with the freezing. But there are ways to minimize it. There's a lot of research going on freezing, and such things as changing the pattern on the room. For example, you see the pattern on this floor. Now that might cause someone to stop and not be able to go there because of the pattern. You become familiar with certain things. For me, I think if I start out too fast or whatever, but what I do and what others do, they can use music, they can use words that guide them and so on, but I go big steps, so I can be frozen, completely stuck, unable to move. And in that case, I'm sort of like this, and I go big steps. So for me, that's my pattern, but everybody else would have a different pattern. And not everybody's going to freeze, but a large number, 75% of Parkinson's people will freeze. Will freeze. But another thing that, for my benefit, is that I have always had a very active life, physical life. And research has shown that the best thing, the best medicine of all for Parkinson's is exercise. And I don't mean like when I first was diagnosed, and I looked upon the internet exercise for Parkinson's. And they said it did this sort of thing. It did nothing good. They were probably having a wonderful social time together, but it wasn't helping them. They've shown now that you have to do exercise that is vigorous, that is really pushes you, that makes you sweat, but you have to like it, and you have to be willing to do it 7 days a week. But if you can't do it, it's going to be harder for you, because this exercise, vigorous exercise like that, has been shown to hold the progression back 40%. And that is really an important stage. Now, I am very strong. I'm stronger than probably everybody in my class. Brian, would you say that?
Sure.
He's in my class. I paid him. And anyway, with the exercise being vigorous, and you can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You have to change what you're doing in your life. And in our class, we have dumbbells. I use 2 kilograms in each hand. That's from carrying grocery bags up the steps. And I use the toughest of the bands and so on. And we have bean bags, which gives us eye coordination, hand and eye coordination, flexibility as we have to get down and pick them up off the floor when we miss. So we have a full range of exercises that gives you the aerobic bit and the strength and the balance, and it is absolutely wonderful. And because of that exercise, I joined the exercise class in 2010, and since then we've had 7 assessments, physical assessments, to see how long we can do things. And at that time, I was stronger than when I joined the club. So I just want to show you guys something, just something. How many of you have seen a 76-year-old woman with biceps like that? And I have another one on that side. And it is very useful to have. Yesterday I bought 5 bottles of wine and 2 6-packs of non-alcoholic beer in my shopping trolley, and took them home. That didn't count the other shopping I had as well. So it's good to be strong. So I think that those of us with Parkinson's have what I call a AAA life. The first A, we are aware of our disease. We are aware of how it can affect us and our loved ones physically and emotionally. And we're aware of the availability of wonderful help, medical, social, educational. The second A is adaptation. You cannot get around adapting, because every way, either with homes, jobs, every way our life has changed, physically, mentally, or lifestyle changes, we have to adapt. There's no choice. And the final one, the final A, is acceptance. I know that there will be slow times. I know that there will be low times, but they do not define who I am or what you are to others. I know that those living with Parkinson's will never be alone. Worldwide, there's 6.3 million people living with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's in New South Wales is a fantastic organization. They offer free counseling. And information sheets, which you've gotten some of today, and just all these wonderful things, support groups around the country. For people who are newly diagnosed with Parkinson's, the best thing you can do is contact them and tell them you're newly diagnosed, and they'll send you a Parkinson passport. And this has a book about Parkinson's and how different things in there. Just a second. Little cards to say, carry in your wallet, say I have Parkinson's. So it's a very informative book that you get. And I really would not hesitate to say everybody who gets Parkinson's, even if they've had it for years, should still call Parkinson's New South Wales and get some information to take home. Here in Australia, the search for a cure is helped by foundations like Parkinson's New South Wales and the new one, Shake It Up. Shake It Up is in partnership with Michael J. Fox's organization, and they collect money from donations and events that goes to research. No middleman at all. It goes to research. And they recently got a $6 million grant, which they're working on. So that you are really being looked after. There's two research groups that I'd like to tell you about because I was really interested in it, even though they may never work. One is that a biological I hope you are recording this for memory because it's not what I do. Biological marker on the blood. So it needs a lot more research, but if they could get it where it's on the blood cells of everybody, and extract it and use it, that's possibly one way that we could get early diagnosis of Parkinson's. And if you don't have early diagnosis, then it makes it harder because you've lost the cells that are producing the dopamine. The other one, which is even more strange, was a woman in Scotland found out, she and the people that she worked with, the research people, that she could smell Parkinson. And she found this out because her husband had it for 11 years, and she noticed that there was a smell associated with him, his clothing, etc. And also among the support group that he belonged to with Parkinson's, they had it too. And she was tested several times, and in the test they would take 6 people with Parkinson's and 6 people without Parkinson's, and they would do exercise and they have a sweaty t-shirt. And those would come to her, and she would pick out from the smell whose t-shirt they were. And she said that there were 6 people who had Parkinson's and 6 who did not. The researcher said, no, that's not right. It's 5 and 7. 2 months later, the guy that was not became diagnosed with Parkinson's. So that was another interesting test. I don't know that anything will come of it, but there's so many different ways that they're looking at Parkinson's. I'm participating in a study on freezing and also just general changes at the Brain and Mind Institute at the University of Sydney. So I would like to say that it doesn't really matter whether I'm on or off, although this matters to me what I'm doing today. I still can give a message about Parkinson's. I know that I'll never be free of it, but I myself can make a difference. I have. I've made it through many groups here in Armadale. And I have people coming up afterwards to tell me that it made a difference to them and helped them. And today, we will take this wonderful example and know what happens to a good speaker when you can't remember things. Parkinson's disease has opened so many doors for me, and I'm thankful to see them as opportunities to learn and to grow. When I first joined that class in 2010, the exercise class, I had lived on Dangar Island for more than 35, 40 years, and I had maybe one or two people that I knew that were friends. That's because we always went to Brooklyn or away in our own boat off our own wharf. When I went to that exercise class, there were all these people there. Quite a few from Dangar Island, lots from Brooklyn, and they are the most wonderful people, and they are my support base, and I couldn't do without them. So, I will continue to raise awareness. I know I'll never be free of Parkinson's, so what does that mean for the years ahead? My daughter told me, enjoy your moments of inability. Have you ever thought that they could be gifts of time from your angels just to sit and be? This can be a time for reflection, for building inner strength, and to prepare for the next step in the fight against Parkinson's. In my own way, I'm fighting back. This is my 15th community awareness presentation, and because my symptoms have changed, each presentation has been a challenge. I have willed my brain to be used for research, but only when I'm through with it. Most importantly, I believe in myself, but like every single one of you in this room, no matter whether you have Parkinson's, it doesn't matter what you have. All we have is now, right now. And that's what we have to keep in mind, because we live now the way that we want to be. So, as I said, whether I'm on or off, I will do as much as I can, as hard as I can, for as long as I can. I will never give up.